Finally back outside to play with this beast, and I can't wait. So today I'm about to install this seal cover on the passenger side Driveshaft. Driveshaft came in a few weeks ago. I installed it just to make sure all the measurements and everything tested out properly, so the driveshaft lined up great. So one of the things that we did not have was the seal cover, and it's a little hard to see from the top. I'll put these down there so you can get a look right there. That cover is missing, and that cover needs to go on this axle. So we're going to take the time to remove it. This is hard plastic. You would have thought that it would have been a lot softer than this, but it's definitely nice and durable. And let's get this bad boy out, installed on the axle, and put back into place. That's the goal and objective for today. I can't wait. Look at this beast. I am pissed off and about to wrap it up for the day. I am not happy. Something that should have took probably half an hour is taking hours, and it's far later than I expect and wanted it to be. So what's happening is this bevel box on the end of the spline shaft has got a clip, okay, C-ring, clip, whatever you want to call it. It's got a clip on there, and of course when you push it into position, it's supposed to lock into place so that this part of the driveshaft doesn't slide off easy. This hub doesn't slide back and forth. Therefore, you can see this groove right here, this ringed groove is where the clip would snap into. So apparently that clip snapped into that and will not come out. I've been crying. I got neighbors blowing a horn. They're happy to see me back outside, but I didn't expect to walk into this. Anyway, it snapped into position to the point where I can't get this axle off. You go to tap it off, like normally with a rubber mallet, it should just pop right off, no problem. It locked into this sucker and it will not come off at all, to the point where it's pulling the inner shaft out of the bevel box. I clamped this right here with a clamp very tight and tried to press up against this point and this fixed part right here so that this shaft won't move. And this bad boy is locked in position to the point where it will not come out at all, and it's literally taking the shaft out here. So needless to say, this is not fun at all, but we need to get this separated from this. Not turning out good. Okay, something that should have been simple has turned major. This pry bar, look at it, is bent. I bent the heck out of this pry bar to the point where it's almost like a U. That is insane. It was straight like this now, don't get me wrong. And look at how it bent over. That is crazy, trying to pry and separate the axle from the shaft. Now this is exactly how I was doing it. Here's the other pry bar. I'll just use a bent one for example. I literally put this in a position here so I can use this as leverage. So that way I don't continue to try to press this axle off and then end up pulling the shaft out the bevel box. I have grade 8 bolts, heavy duty hardened bolts, so the bolts are not bending at all. My original bolts, they were a little smaller, they bent. So I stepped up to a heavier duty bolt, and to the point where I'm trying to pry like this for leverage, just so I can pry this off the shaft. That way all the force will go between here and this bolt right here is leverage. It won't push anything against the bevel box or try to press anything out of there. And what's happening is it's bending all the equipment. So it's not good. I may have to end up pressing this whole thing out. It's going to mess up probably the shaft in the bevel box. We'll have to end up either ordering a new shaft, disassembling the bevel box, putting everything back together, send this whole this whole axle back to the driveshaft shop and have them remove it, and or which they would probably do is probably cut it out, put a new piece on here, and send me the separate shaft back but it's not looking good at all. So they probably can cut these splines right, cut this whole sleeve right here, cut it off, and press it open so that we can get the shaft out and send it back. But I don't know how this shaft looks inside this box, so that is not good at all. Not good. Something that simple should have been using a rubber mallet, tap, tap, pop it off, put on this seal cover right here. More delays. We should have just covered up like this, and this turned into a nightmare. So I am not thrilled and happy about this at all. Never ever ran into this problem before. I've used many axles from the Driveshaft shop before. I've used factory axles, rebuilt them, all of that, the whole 9 yards, many times before. Never have I ever ran into a problem with the whole thing locked in to this point where it's pulling the whole shaft assembly apart. Okay, we're still at it, rotating the shaft around and trying to tap and pry from different points. I actually sprayed some penetrating oil in there to try to loosen it up. I'm actually trying to shift this back and forth to close this gap right here and then press back to see if it'll eventually snap out. I do not want to tap this on an angle. I'm trying to tap it straight that way. If you tap it on an angle, you risk the potential of possibly bending the shaft right here. So we don't want any type of shaft bending or any type of wobbling. So the way you will be able to tell that is when the car's running, you have it up on stands and in gear, you will be able to see this is wobbling back and forth around if this shaft is bent. So it's true and straight, so we want to keep it that way. I've been out here for quite a while trying. I'm just going to throw in the towel and cut this off because I'm wasting a tremendous amount of time. And of course, my time and labor is extremely important, let alone to be fighting with a product. But I bent several pry bars and I got a nice wedge. I've been rotating around, lubricating, and trying to get in between here to at least pop this out of position. As you can see, everything is bending, and I am putting a tremendous amount of force in this, and this is just not coming through. So we're going to need a new hub, but I'm going to try to drill through this, find a location where it's at, and push it in with a punch, or just drill through the snap ring so that way it'll release the pressure and I can get this bad boy off and we can continue moving with this project. But we gave it a good shot, and it's time to move forward. So my objective is to drill a hole through here to gain access to the C-clip, and then try to either drill through it so that the C-clip can lose its spring tension, or to use a punch and push down on the C-clip to release the pressure. But either way, what happens is it possibly ruins the integrity and the strength of this part of the hub, and we do not want a hairline crack to pop down here in the middle of a race and this whole thing snaps off and cause the vehicle to lose control and smash into a wall. So we definitely don't want to reuse this on this vehicle. This hub is definitely made out of some hardened steel. I've already burnt up one drill bit trying to drill through it. I'm on my second drill bit now. I definitely use some cutting fluid and it barely helps. But this drill, these hubs are very hard steel. That's impressive. Okay, I have this hub cut in half, and I chose to do this outside to minimize all the metal particles, and definitely don't want to inhale this. I have a fan blowing the particles away. Luckily, it's raining a little bit outside, so that way it can contain the particles, and as you can see, all the particles are just getting stuck on top of this deck right here. So my objective is to slice this part of the hub off without damaging the shaft. And it's too tight of a groove right in here to cut this off without getting in here and damaging the shaft. So my objective is to slice down here in an angle and then split right across here evenly to split this shaft, this hub in two pieces, and to remove it off of this shaft right here. But if I chose to get an angle grinder, and as I stated, to come in on an angle like this, I would have risked cutting deep into the shaft and risked damaging the shaft. So the best way to do it, slice this hub in half, and then slice straight down the middle of here, and then come all the way across evenly. And then I can slowly control it, how evenly I come across in two different positions over here and on the opposite side to split it and then take it off. Okay, I cleaned up the grease off of this other part of the hub, and now what I'm going to do is start to slice down this section of the hub so I can split this across on two different angles and remove this from the shaft without damaging the shaft. Okay, I realized there's a cap in here, so I drilled through this cap, and now this is pretty good because I can use this as possibly a portal just to look through and see how the snap ring is wedged in position, and maybe somehow try to dislodge this snap ring. So I'm going to pop this cap off and we'll take a look inside. Okay, you can see in here where I had some anti-seize on the shaft before I slid it on into position. I had the cap out, you can see the cap right there, but this snap ring locked into position. You can see the splines, but you don't see no sign of that snap ring at all. So it must have been a nice little groove cut perfectly in there for it to lock into position. Okay, I had to try to get this on video. You can literally see where I can slide the hub a little bit back and forth. See here? I'm trying to hold the camera steady with one hand, but I can literally slide this hub back and forth on the shaft. See right there? It's going in and out, but that snap ring is locked in position. And as I slide in and out, you can see some of the anti-seize squeezing out. But that ring, it must be a perfect groove in there, not much of a taper. And to me, it would be nice if it was a little bit of a taper. That way, if it was a taper on those splines, you can literally pop it off and the taper would help compress that C-clip. But it may be a sharp groove, but we'll see once we split this hub in half how it's made up on the inside. I guess I'm going a little overkill trying to prove this point that this thing is on here. So I took the opportunity to set my camera up on the tripod, and I'm pounding straight, and I actually was loosening this up in the vise and rotating it around, and this is on there. I am popping it super hard, and this thing is locked in position. This is crazy. I mean, super crazy. I'm gonna go ahead and finish cutting it off. Just here to make my point that is in there and on there like crazy. Okay, let's give it a shot. 5-ton jack on this hub. I literally put a socket in here. I did that way I can do an even push. If I use the tip of this to go inside the shaft is partially hollow, and this can cause the shaft to force out and lock itself into the hub a lot better. So putting the socket here, it forces everything just to do a straight push instead of potentially expanding the shaft inside this hub. Oh yeah, there's some force on here. OMG. No wonder I bent that pry bar. I think it may be a little bit safer to possibly cut it. I am trying to put some pressure on this, and this is getting possibly dangerous. Oh no, it's got to get cut. Too much force, 5 tons, and this is not good. It's dangerous. The sheer force from this exploding apart could create a hazard, so it's not even worth it. Okay, I've cutting deep down into this hub assembly, and as you can see, I'm almost to the shaft itself. So I'm gonna get a chisel, try to tap down in the center with a chisel to see if that'll expand it, which it should, and possibly crack the rest of this line here, or expand it enough to split it or widen it up to at least allow this to release from the snap ring. So we're going to give this a shot. If not, I'll cut it from this end as well and it'll definitely split it then. Okay, you see it made a perfect cut. I cut deep enough into the groove to where I can pound a chisel in between the slice, and it made a hairline crack all the way across. So now this should release the pressure off that C-clip, and I should be able to knock the rest of this hub off. But it was a nice, excellent cut all the way down without damaging the shaft at all. So it worked out great. Now you can see this cut worked excellent. I was able to pound this chisel down enough, this hub is such hardened steel. I figured if I pound this down, it would actually put enough force in here to split and crack it all the way across. So I didn't have to use another cut wheel to cut all the way across here. It was able to split it. So now I should be able to knock this off the shaft and we can see how it looks on the inside. I'm extremely surprised. I tapped this and tapped it and I still could not pound this off the shaft. I have this hammer, which is heavy duty, and this maul, which is heavy duty. And this thing is still on here. So I have this tool that came in today. I'm going to use this, and this will spread it open enough to split the rest of this in half, and this will finally be off. Okay, I finally had this split in half, and this was pretty intense. I don't know what happened, why this snapped in there so tight. Look like it's not much of a taper in here, so that may have allowed it to lock in place. You can still see the anti-seize. I usually use that as a precautionary measure to put anti-seize, and this is just a little rubber seal here, but anti-seize on the shaft so that way it doesn't rust, it doesn't friction weld or seize itself to a hub, and it works. I have never had an issue with it. It is locked on there pretty deep, and you can see that the snap ring, it got wedged in here trying to pry it off. I'm not exactly sure how much force. Let's take a look, see if I can push down on it a little bit. Oh yeah, there's not a lot of force. I can actually push this down a little bit, but it's in place. It locked in there pretty good. But 3 days, several hours of trying different techniques, and the final result was to cut it off. So I lost a tremendous amount of time when we should have been making some progress on that piece. But this comes with the territory. Trials and tribulations, but that will not stop us. Okay, I was correct. Even with the hub split in half, I continued to tap and pound and still could not get this off. So I literally had to get a flat tip screwdriver, pry this off of the shaft itself, and then spin it on out. This was not frozen hard on the shaft. I could literally spin it around the hub, so I can literally spin that C-clip around here. But as I stated, this does not have a taper. So I'll clean this up so you can see it a lot better. The factory ones have somewhat of a taper. This is a perfect slice groove in here. And with that, it locked it in position. It was no way for that to come back out. It locked itself right onto that shaft. So I'll clean this up a lot better. You can see like a fixed machine groove all the way around here. No taper whatsoever, and that's what locked that C-clip in place once it expanded. I had the hubs cleaned up so you can see a better example of what I was explaining. I was calling it, and I pretty much hit the nail on the head. I figured that it must not have been a taper in this part of the hub when this was machined, and that C-clip, once this slid into position, it locked itself and fixed itself in position, and it was game over. I had a 5-ton press trying to press this out, and it would not come out. Now, most of the factory hubs and axles that I've come across does have more of a taper, and then you can even see right here, this is slightly tapered. all of these edges right here is a small little ramp, a taper. These tapers would have allowed for the C-clip to compress, and it would have been easier to get out. But what's more impressive is it slid on even easier. So this part of the hub, you can see it's got even more of a taper, a ramp, where this allowed the shaft to push into here, compress the C-clip, and once it slid all the way up into position, it locked itself into here, and it was game over. It was not coming out. You were not going to get past this solid lip right into here where that locked in, and you can see that is a pretty sharp machine. There's no taper whatsoever in this middle, and it locked it in position. So these were not coming out. So what is impressive also is the metal. You can see that the pores is not as dense right here. So when I was drilling through, it drilled through this part of the metal extremely easy. Flakes were just flying off. Once I got to this denser part, and you can see the different texture, the color of the material, this is a lot more dense, this is more porous. I literally went through 4 drill bits and still never penetrated this. My goal was to try to drill through and locate the snap ring, but I was way off. That snap ring was further back here. I would have had to try to drill through this bigger section, so I would have missed it. I was just speculating maybe I can try to drill somewhere through here, locate the snap ring, and just push in and to compress it, but I would have missed it totally. I had no idea how far that was in here at all. But now we can get a good idea of pretty much what happened. When this thing locked into position, this snap ring just pretty much slid into this groove, and that was it. Game over. And it locked in hard. I literally had to bend it, get a screwdriver, pry it up, and just roll it on out, and it came out easy. But even with the hub split in half, this half remained on the shaft. I still pounded and pounded with a hammer. It could not remove this at all. I literally had to get, like I said, pry the snap ring out, pull it on out, and once I pulled it out, this slid off like butter. No problem at all, because I had anti-seize in here to help lubricate it. That's, like I said, it was a common practice so that this would not friction weld or seize itself onto the shaft or anything like that in a lot of high horsepower applications, and it makes it easier for removal. But the anti-seize did not help this from coming out at all. Here's the opposite end where I was drilling through. I drilled through here, nice hole, but once you got down to this dense section of metal right here, it was a wrap. Could not drill through this section at all.